Welcome to episode 9 of How to Do Character Voices with the Beginner Player. Today we're going to be doing something that I have a lot of joy with and is an absolute blast, and that is dwarves. Stubborn miners of the earth. Really gruff and tough and strong, but short in stature. And often people underestimate them because of that, but their shortness hardly bothers them. I love acting out dwarves. They are so much fun. When I picture a dwarf, I kind of think of a proud but stubborn dad, super, just this lovable character, got a big beard, smile on his face, jovial, happy, and I'd usually try to give him a bit of a Scottish accent as well. So in our last videos, we went over the 4 basic elements of your character. That is, how fast do they talk? Is your dwarf a fast talker or a slow talker? The next element was pitch. For dwarves, I usually go for a low pitch. And then there's constriction. How constricted is your character? And then there's loudness. Is your character soft or loud? So for dwarves, this is a bit how I usually do a dwarf.
You're a dwarf and that means stubborn. And the last thing I'm gonna do is let my son sit down with his head in the sand and do nothing. Pick up your pick, boy, 'cause I'm a proud father of ya. And I won't have me son thinking he's a disappointment to me. 'Cause today you get your miner's license, boy. You'll be chipping away at the rocks like your old man.
So to break that character down, first off, he doesn't really change his speed a whole lot. He's got a normal speed, but the pitch is pretty low. So his pitch is kind of down here. And then when we get to step 3, breathiness/constriction, we want to make his voice very constricted. You're going to want to clench your vocal cords and really get that sound,
but bellow with it. Push out with your chest. Really push that voice as it's down there with a lot of force.
For the 4th element, I usually make dwarves very loud, but you can do all variations of this.
So maybe your dwarf talks very fast, and maybe he's got something to say about where we should be, and he's very quick and abrupt. Or maybe he's a lot slower with what he has to say, eh?
Maybe your dwarf doesn't have such a low pitch, eh?
Or maybe he does. Maybe your dwarf isn't as constricted as mine. Maybe your dwarf sounds a bit more noble, hey? Oh, aye. We'll be on our way, lad. I'm right here with you. Away, lad. I'll be right here with you. I ain't gonna leave your side come hell or high water, 'cause ain't nothing gonna keep me away from my friend, eh?
And then, of course, you could go,
we've lost a lot today. A lot of friends. Warriors. But still, we'll keep on.
So take a moment to think about your dwarf and what you want your dwarf to sound like.
Maybe your dwarf is a fast talker. Maybe he's slow. Maybe he's got a low pitch. Maybe he's got a bit of a more normal pitch. Maybe he's constricted and tough, huh? Maybe he's more breathy and careful with how he talks. Is he loud? How are you, wee lad?
Or is he soft?
I'm right here beside you.
Think about what kind of language your character uses. And, like, for my dwarves, I usually have,
you're about more stuck to that rock than me pa was to that cave fisher.
Write down a few words, usually something that's kind of gruff and has to do with mining or encountering some creature in the Underdark. Write a few sayings down, and then just throw those sayings out randomly in the middle of sentences. I usually find that really elevates and just adds more character and can just make your players laugh so much.
You're about as hard as a rock on an egg!
Something, kind of insulting, ridiculous, but it's got a jovialness to it that's fun. So take a moment, write down a few sayings for your dwarf. Think like funny, jovial things or something like that. And then just add that to your repertoire as you kind of talk to throw those out there. Practice it in your car a bit, have fun with it. And then one more step, if you want to really add a bit to your character, and this is going to be not for the faint of heart, because we're going to be making up our own language as we go, but I find that trying to speak kind of in imaginary dwarvish randomly is a lot of fun. And so, like, when your dwarf is really, really frustrated, maybe he starts cursing in dwarvish.
You're about as salty as a cave fisher's backside.
You can kind of add that, just randomly making weird sounds. But if you enunciate in a certain way, it can kind of make sense. And it would sound almost like you're hearing someone talk in a different language. and it really adds a bit of flavor to your character and makes them fun. I really love doing dwarves, so, take a moment to think about what your dwarf sounds like. This is just what my dwarf sounds like. My dwarf is kind of,
"Oh, aye, you wee lad, you're a dwarf, and that means stubborn, and ain't nothing gonna keep you down. I ain't gonna let you fall down and keep your head stuck on the sand. You're gonna get up and do something, and something that matters, eh?"
That's kind of how I do dwarves. If you're doing a bunch of different characters, if you're a DM trying to do dwarves, you'll obviously want to mix it up if you're like in a dwarven city, so not every single dwarf sounds the same. Maybe one dwarf is a bit more breathy and he's got something to say.
"Oh, aye, I know where you're going, and you don't want to go there. Down there is where the goblins are at. We're overrun with them this season."
Mix it up. Have fun with it. So I hope some of this helps you voice act your dream dwarf. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just have fun with it. Get out there, bring that to your table, get some laughs. Happy voice acting. Stay awesome.